It's time for another book on the retro shelf, and today it's Video Games You Will Never Play from Unseen64, a black-white book about cancelled games by the Unseen64 collective. I put this on my online wish list with a certain website and chose the black and white version because it was cheaper. Cover sprites by Clio Baracchini. So, how many video games have you played during your life? Do you think games are a form of art that should be preserved? What if you told you that there are thousands of interesting games you'll never play, all of which could be lost forever? So, it's Unseen64, website dedicated to finding or lost prototypes and beta versions. Before you read this book, an introduction, copyright, good fair use and good faith, and then the forewords from various people, including Frank Gaskin, a good friend of mine from Games That Weren't, Heidi Kemps, games writer, Joe Martin, journalist and designer, John Sapanek, Kurt Kalata, Guru Larry, Larry Bundy Jr., Dan Koopman, Shane Gill, all talking about how important they are, some unseen covers for the book, history of Unseen64, talking about how the website was first made, and then a series of articles about how important it is to preserve these and how it's done. Games you will never, in quotes, play. More unseen covers, interviews. So, various people who've worked in the games industry: Adam McCarthy, Art Min, Brian Mitsoda, Centre for Computing History, Jeremy Facke, Computer Spiele Museum, Andreas Langer in Germany, Felix Kupis, Frederick Villan. And also about the games I worked on that were never finished: Gabe Cinquapami, Grant Gosler, Jesse Sosa, John Anderson, who's working hard to preserve games over there in Japan, Ken Capelli, Novak, worked on a lot of games, Freak Boy being the one cancelled one that gets highlighted, MRE Museum, preserving stuff digitally, National Video Game Museum in Texas, Tim Williams, Omar Cornut, currently working at Q Games, Terry Greer, and this book was actually published in 2016, so some of this is now out of date. William Bill Anderson, with some amazing preview art here from Maximo for the N64, Scott Rogers, and then we start the sections based on particular formats. So we start off with the PC, Baldur's Gate. So each article you get an introduction, various people have done the reviews, and then there are website references: Citadel of the Black Sun, Deus Ex Free Insurrection, Ingalis, Fallout 3 Van Buren from Interplay, Into the Shadow, Myst 4, Prospero, I say Sex and Drugs and Rock and Roll by Sensible Software. You can find the soundtrack online for that now. Sleeping Giants, Warren Spector's ambitious game, definitely ahead of its time. Sorcery from what became Starbreeze, The Fallen, original version of The Witcher, Torn, Ultimate Worlds Online, Urban Decay, Warcraft Adventures. Interesting footnote on that. Steve Maretsky, formerly of Infocom, was brought in to help, but they canned it. Zoix, Pandemonium, NES, Bioforce 8. Now, this is where I say parts of this book are out of date. Bioforce 8 has now been found and turned into a real game. Dinosaur Legend from HAL Laboratory. Donkey Kong's Fun with Music, not one of the educational ones. And there's also a couple of games mentioned in here. I'll probably get to them eventually, but that are now available to play in some form. So Master System, Sonic's Edusoft being produced in the UK. PC Engine, or TurboGrafx 16 if you prefer. Game Boy, version of Diablo and Dino Crisis. Forlorn, Infinity, Jet Force Gemini from Rare. Night, Mifri, Resident Evil, not the version that came out, Gaiden, but full 3D, Sapphire, Tyrannosaurus Tex, which would have been a first-person shooter, Mega Drive / Genesis, and that would have been a page about Nintendo, but they left it out as a joke. Akira, Odyssey, Gaiden, Christopher Columbus, Dreamland of Giants, Felicia, Far Team Rogue, Interplanetary Lizards, Iron Hammer. I saw a video recently about this for these, talking about the Sega VR headset that would have been coming out for the Genesis. Mission Impossible. Original version of Merry Man for the SNES, which is available. Socks, the Cat Rocks the Hill. Political satire. Star Fox 2, which of course is now playable on the Classic Mini, Super Nintendo Classic Mini. Super Quick. X-Women, the Sinister Virus. 32X and Mega CD games. Fascinating piece here about Hammer vs. Evil D in Soulfire. MC Hammer's game. You heard me right. MC Hammer really had a video game. Shadow of Atlantis. Sonic Mars. Virtua Hamster. Philips CDI. Mario Takes America and Mario's Wacky Worlds. Atari Jaguar. Sega Saturn. Comic Zone 3D. Fake Down. Monster Maker Holy Dagger. Sonic and Sonic Extreme. Vectorman Ultra, Virtua Fighter RPG, which famously became Shenmue. And on to the PlayStation games. Original version of Ico. Luvia Free. Power Slave 2. Resident Evil 1.5, and version playable online. Silent Chaos. Last Ninja 4, game that's been proposed several times but has never been finished. Twin Bee Miracle, which looks amazing, RPG set in that world. Virtual Boy, Bound High, Dragon Hopper, Mario Land, Star Fox, Zero Racers, and then Nintendo 64 here. Obviously, the cancellation of the DD, the disk drive, really hurt. Conquest Quest 12 Tales, that became Conquest Bad Fur Day. Die Hard 64. Dinosaur Planet became Star Fox Adventures on GameCube. Freak Boy, fascinating this. You have different parts that you use together. Mother Free, Earthbound 64. Viewpoint 2064 is a real shame this. Follow up to Viewpoint on the Neo Geo. Hasbro VR console, the 3DO and the Panasonic M2. Gamecom, so there's one or two interesting formats covered there. Now on to Dreamcast. Castlevania Resurrection. Now this is another one that has now been found, an early beta, so that is now playable. Follow up to Chakan, Ghost Force, Little Dream, Propeller Arena, Streets of Rage 4, years before we actually got a Streets of Rage 4. And on to Game Boy Advance, so Flashback Legends, Battletoads, Sword of Seer, Lady Seer 2. Nintendo DS, a version of A Boy and His Blob, could have come to that, an early version of Gauntlet. I have my own DS unfinished game to talk about, Dragon's Lair DS, not the version that was originally released. Then Toe Jam and Earl 4 could have been on the DS. Now on to more recent games for GameCube, PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Follow-ups to Banjo-Kazooie. Intriguing Dead Phoenix that would have arrived on GameCube as part of the GameCube 5 from Capcom. Donkey Kong Racing. Sounds cool. Kirby Adventure, which could have been more than one project. Maximo Free. Omicron 2 from David Cage and David Bowie. Overambitious Phoenix, Picasso, Ravenblade, Runeberg, Skies of Arcadia 2 could have been a reality. Too Human from Silicon Knights, which ended up changing formats. The very sad story of Unity on the GameCube from Jeff Minter and Llamasoft. The Bumbling 5. PSP, the PlayStation Portable, so Earthworm Jim, One of the games highlighted there. Follow-up to Landstalker, the RPG. Saints Row Undercover and Resident Evil Portable. Elder Scrolls Travel, the smaller game based on Oblivion. And then some arcade games. And we'll come to another one here that had a new lease of life. So Capcom Fighting All-Stars and Clockwork Aquario. Well, that's failed in its location tests. And Westone went bankrupt. But you can now play it on the Switch. There's Gunpete, Twinkle Star Sprites 2, and then Nintendo Wii cancellations, including Jet Set Radio follow-up and Kid Icarus, Mario Spikers, volleyball game, Project Hammer, Sadness, which is a real shame, Wave Race on the Wii could have been a possibility, PS3 and Xbox 360, so an Aliens RPG, Banjo Karting, which became Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts in some ways. A game called Dwarfs. The Disney film it was based on was cancelled. Faith in a 45, which sounds different. About a couple going through Depression era USA and the Dust Bowl. Final Fantasy Fortress, being handled by a Western team, but sadly cancelled. Halo MMO, known as Titan or Orion. Heavenly Sword 2, Cameo 2 from Rare. LMNO, project involving Steven Spielberg. Another Legacy of Kain. They're actually saying there's more unreleased Legacy of Kain games than there are released games. A different version of Prey 2. Saberman Stampede, another from Rare. Star Wars Battlefront 3, which could have been coming from Factor 5. Time Splitters 4. Sad story really, with the takeover by Crytek. And while there was a fan game coming, it was not finished. How to Help Unseen64. Then short biographies of the various authors involved in the write-ups in this book. And the team behind Unseen64. And a thank you. So some more of the cover sprites by Luca Tabarelli. So yes, it's a fascinating book. Lots of games, some you may have heard of, some you may never have heard of. But it all tells a story of how the gaming industry could have been very different and why we need to work harder in preserving the history of video games, and developers need to work on preserving stuff before it's too late. With so many games going digital, there's going to be thousands of games in the future we'll be unable to play and we'll simply know nothing about. Even there's something as simple as an update for an MMO that changes the gameplay. Each of those needs to be preserved in some way. So hope you enjoyed that. Check out Unseen64, the website, and I will see you in the next video. Keep watching my channel, like, share, subscribe, comment below on the unreleased game you would love to play, and I'll see you in the next video.